well, I've made the call to go hard on YouTube. I think we're gonna go with 3 videos a week for like 90 days and just see what happens. Because our 3 biggest clients all came through YouTube. And I don't know about you, but like smaller clients is not where it's at in terms of like scaling or growing or getting where we want to go. Are you kind of finding the same?
Yeah, so I think the only way that scaling through small clients works is if you scale vertically. That's the conclusion I've come to. So we have basically a rule that we operate under where we will scale vertically in industries where we've succeeded really, really hard, like stupendously hard. Um, Regardless of how big the clientele are there, we're happy to still work with them for the most part. And then we'll take risks and try new things, like try new industries, only if it seems to be like you know, a very competent business. Like we want to dig deep into, look, what do your closing rates look like? If we bring you all these leads, are you actually going to be able to turn them into conversion so that this can be a long-term relationship, or do you have some downstream problems? And then sometimes that'll become, a more holistic deal, which is good for us. And sometimes that just means, hey, maybe we'll circle back in a few months when you fix these things up. Here's a referral. But yeah, I would tend to agree. I become really picky, especially as call volume has gone up so much since we've started marketing pretty heavily again for ourselves.
Nice. And when you say like scale vertically, what do you mean?
Yeah, so like for instance, maybe ed tech would be a good example. We're doing really really well in ed tech. We're happy to take on other ed tech companies for slightly cheaper because we've already done all the work. Like even if then they're in a place where they can't handle like a $6,000 retainer or something like that, or they're not in a place where they can even scale up from that, we're okay with it because we understand the market. We understand, what they really care about is like their strategic initiatives, their pedagogy, their curricula. They care about curricula changes and how that's impacting teacher mental health, for instance. We know all these things about the market. We've already done all the custom data scraping. So the margin is there to scale into that industry and it doesn't cause operational complexity. Whereas
Mm.
if you're just working with, any business, there's always additional operational complexity during the figure it out phase, which even if you're really, really good, there's still a small figure it out phase. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. It's like our, so we're following like Nick kind of, and like the pay per meeting video lead. Now it's pay per lead, essentially. Um,
Nice.
but what we're finding is if they're anything outside of a vertical we've already had success in, we're like 90-day pilot, set fee for the pilot. Because we're not taking on, like, we're at the point where like
That's
we're
exactly what we do.
not taking on the risk, man. Like, if we haven't proved it before, we're gonna try our best, but like I don't know how good you guys are, and like we even within the same vertical, right? Like we'll have the same lead flow. One client's obviously crushing it. One client's like, hey, there's a problem with the leads. And I'm like, I can send you all the call recordings of the other client. I can send you everything. Like I've got everything, but like you're missing the source to be able to turn these into business. And I'm not going to sit here and give you that source because I'm not your like life coach. I'm generating you leads. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah. And I think,
It gives you stronger carryover. And also, I think it allows you to build a holistic service, right? All of a sudden, you can transition for some of these clients to full funnel, or you can start incorporating content, which I don't know. We'll see how this, I'm building out this kind of ludicrous MCP flow from Fireflies meetings all the way through to like several different knowledge bases and several different agents to build out content for me. If this goes well, I'm just going to add that onto my service, just like one time fee, because I think we both know when a client has content and a client has like an established brand, it just makes like middle of funnel and bottom of funnel work way easier. You can just start nurturing them with videos. You mentioned you're going hard on YouTube. For me, YouTube's less top of funnel and more bottom of funnel. I use it as ways to take engaged leads and turn them into calls, or sometimes get like a lead over the hump to make sure I can, prove competency, for instance. I think you can actually see that if you look at both of our channels. The style of our content is often a little bit different. Yours has a little bit more broad reach, and probably books more calls than mine as a result, I would assume.
Yeah, yeah, that's a game that I do not fully understand, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna be like transparent with it because it's like I can look at other channels that I know they're getting heaps of calls. I'll talk to the owner and they're like, yeah, I've just got heaps of kids booking calls. Like these, the worst of my leads, like my cold email
Yep.
leads that I get are way better than these ones. And then we're on the like we'll disqualify a whole lot of people. Some people will come on for consulting with me. I'm happy to do an hour long consulting call with people if they're serious. But then we have like $50 million, $100 million a year companies that will come through YouTube for our like top of funnel YouTube videos, like
Yeah.
how to set up inboxes. I'm like, well, I suppose you're also watching videos on how to set up inboxes. It's not just like kids. So
It's
I don't
pretty
know.
cool, right?
I don't want to fall into the trap of being like, this video gets the most views, make more content like this. I
Mm.
want to obviously make content that the people that we want to work with resonate with. And like you were saying, moving into like a full service thing, like I'm almost envisioning that we go like our biggest clients, we're almost going like rev share on the deals and we'll just get fully into bed with you on how to do this. Like I'm happy to do all the lead nurturing, happy to make sure the calls are coming through, happy to listen to all the calls, happy to do the nurturing between calls, happy to build out your YouTube strategy, happy to build out everything. If they're like, so like some of our clients, the deal sizes that they make profit might be like $1 million profit per deal. And so we can get a rev share on that. Um, and I'm like, for me, that seems very exciting because now it feels very real. Um, and it also feels like, I don't know, when you're solving things vertically, there's less experimenting. And I feel like the experimenting is the exciting part, right? Like,
Well,
yeah,
every experiment also has just deeper impact, right? Like you're getting significantly more payoff for every experiment you do. All of a sudden, like if you decide to just, try ads, for instance, for a client, like as a nurture, like upload all engaged leads into, I don't know, a retargeting sequence on YouTube, through ads. You can just see if that works for one, and all of a sudden you have something that works for 10, you know?
mm.
So yeah, that's what makes me excited about, going more vertical. But I think like you have to start kind of servicing everyone and obviously, doing it for probably cheaper than you should. Because that's what lets you, like, I got a DM yesterday from someone that was, they really like my content, but they struggled to figure out new offers. If you scale horizontally and you just get the reps in, especially if you did like loom based outreach, I tell everyone, like, if you're trying to figure stuff out, do looms because you're going to get raw feedback on your ideas without having to take a call. People are going to tell you if you sound like an idiot. That's a great way to quickly just figure out if like you have the mind for a market and also exercise your ability to find ways to, what I like to say, wrap situations around someone's offer.
Yeah, 100%. Like I will, if someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm not getting leads,
Mm.
I'm like, okay, this is your massive block of copy you're written. Just say, hey, I've got an idea that I think could help you around this thing. Do you mind if I send over a loom? Just do that
Mm.
and then make them the looms because you're not going to sell them in the email. You're not going to be able to sell them in the email. You might be able to start selling them when they see your face and how you talk and you're like, oh, you're using jargon which resonates with the industry. Yeah, I'd be open to a conversation. And also, if they make the looms and have then these calls, sales calls, they're way less harsh because some people just get eaten if they're just going straight from cold email to a call compared to if the prospect's like seen their face, heard them talk. It's going to make the discovery call a lot easier for some of these people. So I always recommend that. And if you send out, I'm just going to say like 5,000 emails that say like, hey, I've got an idea about how you could grow by connecting you with these sorts of people. Do you mind if I send over a loom? And you get no positive responses, like there's a problem. Like you should definitely be getting positive responses at that point. Like the barrier to entry is so low and you've been relatively vague about something that you assume they're interested in. Like there should be some crossover. And then if you're sending out these Loom videos and you're not getting a positive responses, and you can see they're viewing the videos, you're like, okay, people do not care about what I'm saying, or at least these people do not care about what I'm saying. And then you can tackle it in like a more strategic way. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Go through the motions, figure out how to reframe the offer, and, ask yourself, is the right audience for is this the right audience for the offer? I think that's a great way of doing it. Is that typically like the way you cycle through things? Do you do that like day one where you have uh let's say like a type of offer that requires less bandwidth on behalf of the client or on the client's end, and then cascades down towards things that are maybe more free, more intro offer, more Loom based? Or do you kind of wait to do that and kind of test as many ideas as possible that don't require effort on the part of the client, and then go down from there? What does that look like for you?
yeah, it's a really good question. So, if you think about cold email leading into like a discovery call, which is typically how we would pitch it,
Yep.
often if they have no experience on discovery calls, right, the cold email can't be too far off calibrating the prospect for what that call is going to be, right? Because if you go to market and you say, hey, Mitchell, we do Facebook ads for $2.99 a month. You get 4 creatives, da 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 da. Are you interested? Here's my calendar link. And people say yes. Then the client, in this case, is going to be able to handle those calls, even if they've got very little sales capacity, right? Or experience. But if you're saying, like, hey, do you want a competitor analysis on how some other people in your space are running their meta ads, da 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 da, or something slightly further away from where they typically take their sales calls, that inbound or more referrals that they've grown off, they're going to now have to go into this process of updating their sales strategy to match cold outbound. And that is a painful process that some people don't want to go through or admit that they have to go through, because they're like, I close 80% of warm inbound referral leads. Like, I should easily be able to close these cold outbound ones. So, because of that, we try and start with an offer or an angle that is relatively tied to how their sales process is. Because best case scenario is that it works and that they can then just not have to go through the pain of learning how to sell to cold outbound. Most of the time, people don't have the offer just isn't good enough. It's too much of a commodity. The market doesn't care enough. And so you have to adjust the outbound to make it more attractive. And the more attractive typically means it's slightly further away from the point of sale, right? And so there now becomes some sales, I'm just going to call it sales process. You have multiple calls,
Some
multi-
actual discovery.
some actual sales, like
Yeah.
not just order taking. Some actual sales has to take place to take them from someone partially raising their hand to maybe learning more about a topic to buying typically your super expensive thing that you want to sell on 12-month retainers. There has to be some sales that happens, but clients have to buy into that. Like, you can't force that on them. Well, you can say this is what's required, but they have to say, okay, great. Like,
Yeah,
what
you
do
could
I
do
have
like
to
a
do?
surprise drop on month two when leads aren't converting or something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So,
Makes total sense.
but if I'm getting on like like a consulting call, or like, let's say we're doing outbound for us, we're just going to say like, hey, we're generating leads in your space for this other company. Do you want me to send over a video on how we're doing it?
That's
And they're
funny.
going
I take a totally different approach to outbound
to just say,
myself. I get extremely creative.
mm,
I got some flack for it. I did this whole campaign around intent signals that I called restraining orders,
mm,
as the subject line. I will say when it cascaded all the way down to like making the argument that, if you're not careful with intent, you're just going to actually push away rather than attract. And so I try to make contrasting opinions on what the current trends are in the market to stand out. That's kind of like the recipe. So right now I have a campaign that's the entire campaign is valuable stalking. That's the subject line. Um, and the idea is to then take that same thing, that intent campaign, and do the reverse and see if it works. The restraining orders ended up working better going against it versus valuable stalking, which is how to do this thing right like without
Mm.
actually coming off as a weirdo, right? So taking both approaches, and those are the angles we test. And then now we have another campaign that's live that's called Automating Mediocrity. And so this one, all of these campaigns, 10+% positive reply rate. And the context is trying to get them to view you as an expert. So typically when I hop on these calls, they're the ones that are like very interested in asking questions about the process, as opposed to me trying to like as much peel back the layers and also as much be focused on an outcome. That the problem with like outcome based campaigns, in my opinion, from a lead gen point of view, is that the outcome is going to be totally different for every business, almost no matter what. Um, sure, like we might be able to get a very similar number of engaged leads, but like you said, the same leads may not convert. So I like to make it more about the process. And so I actually lead with the process and in the
Mm.
in the emails and with like a diametrically opposed opinion. And for me, this has been the most effective at attracting larger organizations. So this booked like a $3 billion firm, another $350 million M&A firm. Um, Actually, I'll be meeting with them later today. Uh, and the responses are usually like, this is such an interesting approach. Here's my calendar. You know,
Mm.
we get less
Yeah.
overall responses because it's a little bit higher level, right?
Mm.
But yeah, the way we went about that was we just pulled everyone that was interacting with AI SDRs and N8N, AI SDRs and AI prospectors. We took the 6,000 people in the last month and we said, look, if you use these things, you're just automating mediocrity. What if you had someone actually figure it out first, right? Figure out what to say, who to target,
Yeah.
and make it more about that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like, I'd say we probably have a different perspective on this, and this is why we probably run vastly different campaigns. Like, we
Absolutely.
we came up from like running a restaurant marketing agency, and we'd like start with Facebook ads, then move to cold email, and we'd get our booked call rate was 6%, which was crazy. So 100 emails, we get 6 calls booked. So we're just in like 200 emails a day for us. You get 12 discovery
That's
calls a day.
shockingly fantastic. Like
Oh,
that's
yeah,
absolutely world class for a cold audience.
yeah, it was crazy. But we've always approached it where the discovery call is the crux of of the cold outbound. Like we want to get as many people to the discovery call as possible to do the discovery, to both qualify, disqualify. If we're disqualifying them, we're pushing them to our newsletter or YouTube channel, or we're asking if they, we're then filtering out from the discovery call, as opposed to, which means like 60 to 70% of people on the discovery call are not qualified. But we try and squeeze the juice from those people as much as possible to like push
It's
them to
interesting.
other channels, and that's how we've found works the best for us. It also allows us to get lots of market feedback, like lots of market feedback, because you're talking to lots of people all the time, but
Mhm.
it has massive constraints. Obviously, you've got a salesperson that's talking to people that aren't qualified all the time. That's a huge constraint. Also, like, are these market signals, how accurate are they if they're people that aren't qualified? Right. And then I don't, it really depends on the outreach. Are you turning away the highest quality prospects? And that's really, the more we get into
That's
the
the fear.
game, that's the
Mhm.
fear. It's like
Yeah.
majority of businesses are not qualified, just in general. And so if you're going, like, the broader your appeal, the more you're just going to be like, most, like, if you take
Honestly,
95%,
it really does depend on the campaign, but for the most part, yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I agree
If you're
with
just,
what you're saying.
yeah, if you're just saying, I'm reaching out to home service businesses, let's say, like, obviously majority of them are bad. If you've got a well
Yeah.
collated list, right, then it's a bit different. But
Yeah.
that, we've just always found like more action is better, and that could be just the wrong belief. And I'm so open to that being the wrong
I
belief
really
around
don't think
this.
it's a wrong belief at all. Our transition has been from being too extremely like meticulous to being just higher action, higher throughput. Especially, it wasn't a problem when I was running this as more of like a solopreneur style business last year. But the moment I started scaling, I realized that you have to look at ways to get the best outcome without like extreme strategic effort, right? Like you can't expect everyone to have your obsessive mind for the game as maybe you do. Or it can be incredibly challenging to find that person, right? But yeah, I think you really do need to have a mix. I think for saturated markets, where you really benefit from taking this, more nuanced approach. For instance, like in lending, what you want to do, in my opinion, in every campaign is we look at what is an argument we can make that is attractive. Almost thinking of it like a debate. And we're in a debate against all of our competitors. And so, what's the argument that's going to sway the jury, sway the prospect, more than all of our competitors? And that's where we want to sit. That's where we want to reside. So, lenders kind of take this blanket approach of our offer is so good, who's going to say no? Like you don't have to pay for anything. But what they're forgetting is that there's a lot of hoops that people have to jump through and a lot of qualification. Not everyone's going to qualify for those loans, right? And so they want to see someone that understands their current situation because they're going to believe that that person actually believes that they can get them the money. And so if you take that same audience and you split them up into who's growing, who's not growing, who has inventory in the US versus who doesn't, who has a winning ad campaign right now versus who doesn't, you can start to wrap the messaging in those things. For instance, what if you could just, dude, congrats, you've been growing rapidly the last 12 months. If you had an extra X amount of money, how much more could you dump into that winning ad campaign and how much faster could you ramp this, right? Would you want to do that? That
Mm,
becomes a totally different argument and totally different emotional argument to them than anything else. All of a sudden, you're preying on the fact that they want to buy a house next year, right? They need to get married. They need to figure this out, right? You have so many different kind of life events happening specifically because this is a founder that now your offer is helping facilitate. And that's, I think, where you create an argument that stands out. That's kind of our goal. And more we're trying to find ways to do that without having to do ridiculous amounts of research, right? So more list is the message.
mm. Yeah, that's interesting. And like everyone has their own little pitch. Like every cold email agency, once they've been in the game for a little bit, they've got their own spin on why they're different. And for us, it's that we send these personalized videos at scale. And that's like
Nice.
our calling card. So I think we send it out like 500,000 emails a month at the moment, and half of those will have a personalized video in them. And the when I say personalized, they shoot like for the campaign, the video shot once, it's then overlaid onto every prospect's website. And that works really well in some industries. Well, actually, it works well in most industries and more like tech savvy industries. They know what's happening, but they're like, I like that you overlaid that video on my website. That was cool. And like for,
I'm glad you put the effort in, kind of thing.
yeah. Like, I know that it's automated, but I'm glad you did it. And for other industries, they're like, oh my God, thank you so much for taking the time today. Like, that was fantastic. Um, and we've found that it doesn't quite do what you were talking about, where you've got we don't segment our campaigns like that deeply, to be honest.
Hmm.
We kind of let the market like I want to write a copy that resonates with the people that we want to respond positively to it. And if it doesn't resonate, then I'm okay with them not responding to it. Um, but we find that the video does a lot of softening, and meaning that if you listen to someone talk and they're using words that speak to you, even just industry jargon, they're more likely to respond even if they're not interested and say like, hey, Mitchell, appreciate it, man. Like, we're not interested right now, but thanks for making a video. Which overall, we've found just like increases the lifespan of the campaigns, gives us more market feedback. It's like, lots of people are saying they're not interested. That's more helpful than getting no replies. It gives us more data points. But I definitely think we could probably take some learnings from you in terms of segmenting the lists further. How do you like what I know you go quite deep with it. Like, do you want to like give us a breakdown? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is actually the exact question I got yesterday. So hopefully this person watches this video. But like I said, I'll start with arguments, and arguments stem from situations. So we take a look at their offer And we try to take features, first of all, and peel back what those features and the implications of those features are to the emotional experience of the end user. So, yesterday I was on a call with a decentralized exchange, for instance, which is a bit of a weird one, which will make this fun. And as we peeled back the layers, we were discovering that, oh, what it boils down to, why people may be more interested in something a little bit more transparent, is because bookmakers, order makers, it's actually like playing against the house. It's playing against house money. It's There's this level of unfairness that people experience. Like they're playing a game and they feel like a gimmick got them. It wasn't because of their own skill. And what people ultimately want in a trading experience is for everything to come down to whether or not they were skilled enough, not whether or not, you know, the casinos decide they were winning too hard. They didn't like the way that, oh, we think you're counting cards. And so that's like where we can start to build an argument. And then we have to ask ourselves, who is in a situation where they may have experienced that, and what reinforcing macro level conditions can help us aid that message. So recently, there was a huge falling knife on like Binance, right?
Mhm.
So that could be a signal. Every Binance user will get message resonance immediately because they may have been kicked off the order book. They may have had their leverage fall out. They may have had to wait 20 minutes for their leverage to upload, and we know the situation they experienced, and then we can contrast, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So that would be one kind of simple example. That was an easy one. In other cases, we have to do much deeper research. In other cases, we have to abstract out what the situation could be. For instance, we're running into some campaigns with a newer client where our entire goal is to identify agency owners with gaps. And so this one was personal to me. So I could be like, look, I know for a fact if an agency owner does not have a head of ops or an operations lead or anything like that, or if they do not have a closer on the team, you hinted at like 60 to 70% of discovery calls earlier um, being unqualified. For me, I actually opt for email back and forths before discovery because I want to avoid as many meetings that are potentially a time waste as possible because I don't have a closer, right? And I do all the sales for my team. And so you can start to look at these like more emotional pain points as a result. And then you can say, look, here's all these guys that, you know, don't have a closer, don't have an operations lead. And now our message can be to pair them with the person in our agency owner 8-figure community that just exited that situation and can show them how to fix it in a week instead of 3 months. And then you add on all the other layers of value in the community, but you make the premise about that because that's what's relevant to their current situation. And that's
Mm.
why I kind of call it situation based outreach. And I feel like it's kind of like I'm trying to do a video on it that's like Alex Hermosi style. I'm thinking of calling it like $100 million situations. How to
Yeah.
find people that actually want your shit. You know?
Yeah. Do you like how's the TAM looking when you start to like cut down on all these factors? Like, can you still, because that's one of the issues, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you are starting to segment aggressively, like, how do you deal with that? And like, what sort of TAMs do you need with your approach for it to make sense?
So I think the difference between the way we do it and a lot of people do it is that we waterfall it, right? So we look at these situations and then we unite the lists and then we waterfall them through, right? And you get the message that applies to your situation. And typically it's only the first line that like makes this argument initially. And so we can oftentimes still upload one audience as one campaign. I would say typically our campaigns are ranging in size anywhere from 1,000 to 15,000 contacts. So definitely not as large as a lot of agencies do it.
Mhm.
And when it comes to TAM, I would say actually the smaller the TAM, the more leaning on situations matters, because you need to find a way to be like truly one of one. It's like the next best thing to doing like manual outreach is the way I would describe it. So we've been working with a company for 18 months that has a TAM, a total address market of around 2,800 companies. And we've been getting results for 18 months straight. And so that's because we run a situation, it does well, we find the winner, and then we find new situations and new ways to present the offer that make it meaningful for the, rest of the people. At month 18, I'll be honest, we've actually engaged about 80 to 90% of the market. So now it's a pivot. We're going to talk about using this to nurture leads, using this to just be signals. Hey, who changed companies? Who in your CRM is at a new company, who got a promotion, who just joined the company, that'll allow you to reopen in these conversations. Things change. But to get back to the point, I think situations matter, especially the smaller you go. You just have to set the expectation, and the value of the offer needs to be big enough. So we don't typically work with a lot of lower ticket SaaS. You need to be sales led SaaS. We don't typically work with any LTV lower than around 10,000. Typically, we want to be like 20,000 plus.
Yeah.
And that's because what we want to do for our clients is put so much effort into figuring out what actually matters to the end user with the messages we send being so specific that they actually get a advantage over all of their competitors in terms of their understanding of the market, like true market intelligence that can be applied to all other forms of marketing and helps them create what I want for all my clients is a marketing flywheel, which is what we're transitioning towards. And I think when you do that, your nurturing makes more sense. Your follow-ups by your SDRs make more sense. Your call scripts begin to make more sense. And everyone finally understands that, in the agriculture industry, we need to be talking about Boitris. In the agriculture industry, we need to be talking about how your product fits into the like tiny amounts of rack space. Can it fulfill the job while also not decreasing canopy density? And when you figure these things out, all of a sudden, like every message you send sounds like a message from a friendly expert instead of a guy trying to sell you. And I think, yeah, that's what we try to do. It's definitely hard. Um, I think that's why we opt for kind of some of these retainer style engagements because we're not saying, hey, we're going to flood you with calls. What we're saying is we're going to figure out the best way to communicate with your market. What is the message that resonates with your market the best? And we'll do it the fastest. And then once we figure it out, we'll take it everywhere. Let's add LinkedIn. Let's triple the volume, so on and so forth. So it doesn't necessarily come down to a TAM, but it comes down to being able to waterfall and make sure you don't say no to messaging someone because they don't meet the criteria. They just get a slightly different message.
Yeah. The when you grow yourself through cold email, it becomes apparent so quickly that you are the market research component of the business because you're directly interfacing with the market. But when someone like goes out to hire a cold email person and they've only relied on, let's say, inbound, they don't understand that the cold email is going to be the interface between them and the cold market. And so they don't take it as market feedback often. They just take it as like, oh, these people aren't qualified. It's like, no, they're not interested in how you've wrapped your thing or how you've positioned your thing because there's been some miscommunication with what you're doing and what they're interested in. So this is helpful feedback that they're telling you and you need to take it as such. And we went down the road as well, like recording all the discovery calls, recording all your demo calls, transcribing them all, putting them through AI, building out the database, figuring out like what are the actual pain points, which are the parts, like what is the market skeptical about, these sorts of things, and then using that to recraft copy. Is that's the road that you're thinking of going down when it comes to like fleshing out a cold email into market research, or is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, so like we what we do for our clients is we create these documents called the voice of the market, and we actually show at the job title level who's resonating with campaigns. So they know like at the absolute level, hey, this message is really good for this level of person. And then you start to ask yourself what messages resonate bottom up versus top down. What messages create champions in a business versus messages that lead to like budget authorities, right? Because those are going to be completely different. What I would say is for making that argument that you mentioned, right? People don't understand that email is market research. Um, it's always best with stories. So, like, one of the best stories we have is we're sending to the digital print industry on behalf of a humidification company with a unique selling point of they don't wet things. Okay. And so we were looking at like product failures. We were looking at ink splatter, right? Like all of these things that wetness can create. But one thing we would never know is what we got as feedback for a campaign, which is that ink heads dry out all the time um, as a result of their humidification systems having to be turned off to reduce sweating. Okay. So it actually went one step deeper. It's like we deal with the wetting by turning it off and it creates this problem. And oh, yeah, every time we turn these off for more than 24 hours, which is usually once a month, it is a $15,000 to $50,000 replacement on one machine. And now imagine someone with 12 machines, right? I was like, oh my God, we got to try this. Overnight, 4 times the discovery calls rolled through, like overnight. Quadrupled campaign performance, 35% positive reply rate. And so the best way to resonate with people is always stories. And so the moment I tell those stories, people are like, oh, 100%, I'll send you all my call transcripts. Yeah, you can have access to our CRM to see the notes that our SDRs are taking on these leads, so on and so forth.
Mm.
But yeah, that's the thing that does it for me. I'm sure you have your own stories where you discovered something. And if they don't resonate with that, they're not a fit as a client. And like we said, we're looking to work with people who understand what we do. Um, the discovery call, my best discovery calls are the calls where I go, oh, it's good that you answered that way because if you were more in this situation, I don't think we would be a fit.
Mm.
Right? Being able to say that to someone completely changes the presentation of your business because it shows that you're trying to work with people that you can help the best rather than work with people you can just help because you want to make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. We're yeah. It's when you're getting into the space, it's really hard to say no. And arguably
Yeah.
you shouldn't say no, but you shouldn't tell them that you definitely can help. You can say like, I don't know, I will try my best. Let's figure out something where if I try my best and it goes well, I get paid, and if it doesn't go well, it's okay for both of us. Like that's I mean, that's the starting point we started on with like the agency in general, like cold walk-ins, asking for free trials at restaurants, like during their lunchtime, and they told us to piss off because there was lots of people around. But yeah, what for someone just getting into cold email, let's just say like an agency owner that's just trying to do it for themselves. Do you have any advice for them?
For cold email people that are trying to do it themselves.
Yeah, like they're trying to,
A
yeah,
So do two things. Definitely do immediately website visitors. Definitely do engagement to your own profiles. Definitely do number one tip. Anyone who visits your profile that meets your criteria, I have an 80% booking rate on any ICP visit to my profile. I just send them a loom every time because they're showing interest in my content. There's a reason they clicked on my profile, um, so on and so forth. How do you cascade that into cold email? Get Trigify set up, right? Monitor influencers in your space. Send them friendly messages with lead magnets. Send them personalized videos like Kwani. And then number two, have campaigns running 1, 2, maybe 3 a month, and just pick little pockets of your market and always go vertical, right? And if you're going to pick a market, always go to a growing market. Alex Hormozy 101. If you're scaling into a shrinking market, you're making a huge mistake. So go to a growing market, look at the market, and say to yourself, among my closed one, maybe do some interviews, maybe look at some sales calls. What was the situation they're in, and what data can tell me that someone else may be in that situation? And reach out to them with the exact script that Wani mentioned, basically. Say, we did a great thing for them, and then mention they were in this current situation, thought you might be facing something similar because, right?
mm,
So I would lead with the CTA. Would you like thing? We did it for blank. Figured you're in the same situation because.
yeah,
That's it. And I would just test that message with maybe switching the value proposition and the level of friction of the CTA. So offer video, offer personalized video, offer case study breakdown, all the way through to email back and forth. And then finally, if you can get to it, call straight away.
yeah.
That'd be it. Within 2 months, you'll figure out what works for a pocket of your market and then just expand out from there.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic advice. And I do have a question that I'm super interested in. What do you think is going to happen with AI in like the next year with cold email? Because you're deep in using it for a range of different reasons, and like some people use it to write copy, and cool, that's part of the game. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. I'm trending towards 100 million tokens for OpenAI now. So I can't wait to get, or 100 is 100, sorry, 100 billion.
Yeah, you get the little
So I
plaque.
can't wait to get that plaque. That'll be cool. Um, Look, I think AI, especially with MCP, is gonna enable knowledge-based workflow automation, and it's gonna enhance the best people. And I think it's going to become more and more prevalent to spend a lot of money for the best talent because of the way the best talent can create leverage for themselves. I think that's number one. You're going to see a lot less VA hires. You're going to see a lot less low level positions, people with little experience. You're going to see a lot less people hiring like someone to manage their infrastructure. That's number one. So I think margins are going to go way up for cold email. And so two things could happen as a result of that. Number one, you could end up with people lowering prices and stress testing pricing, right? And I think little guys are going to get knocked out as a result. That's one theory I have. For AI in cold email, I think what you're hinting at is it going to replace what we do? I think absolutely not. And the reason is comes back to that exact same idea I mentioned, which is automating mediocrity. No matter one, LLMs are running out of data. Okay, they're running out of things to learn from humanity, which is crazy. We're already at that point. And so unless they figure out a whole new way to train these models, um, like I would call it like freaking quantum training. Like
Mm,
unless they can like quantumly train these models, the rate of improvement has only gone down, and we're still not at a state where models can create subjectively great things for individual people. So let me elaborate on that. It's good at math. It's good at software engineer benchmarking. It's good at just raw grammar. Absolutely. Whatever raw grammar you need. It can change languages, but these are objective things, right? It can calculate stuff. It can solve an equation, right? But these are objective things with guardrails, right? There are no objective guardrails to marketing. There are no objective guardrails to sales. There are no objective guardrails to what is a good message. It comes down to so much inaccessible knowledge on a market, on an individual, on a job title that AI will never come up with the idea to be like, you should only go after software companies that don't have public facing pricing, right? Oh wow, yeah, that's a really good idea. They probably have a sales led motion, right? It's I don't think in a year it's gonna be there. I think you're looking at 3, 4, 5 years, and still I think you're gonna be a situation where someone has to drive it there, you know?
mm,
So I think it's just gonna continue to create leverage.
interesting.
What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think for one, companies going to keep using email. I think that's going to be relatively clear. And so I think that for the foreseeable couple of years at least, maybe 5 years, companies are going to use email, especially to interact externally. Like, yeah, maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, people have more moved to like internal modes of communication, Teams or Slack or whatever. At least externally, they're going to be using email. And so there has to be some route for external emails to make it into the system. And I think that there's enough value and not that much harm caused in good cold emails. So I just don't think that they're going to get filtered out completely. So from like a deliverability standpoint, I still think if you send good emails, they're going to keep making it to the right person. I'm not too concerned about that. I think that them getting better at filtering bad emails is just going to help people that are doing the best that they can and not scamming people. Okay, I think that's going to be fine. When it comes to like the content of emails, I agree with you. First of all, I want to say humans are just super good at picking up things that are slightly off. Like we're so good at picking up things that are slightly off. And like you can already tell this by like AI written language a year ago. Now majority of people can pick up that it's relatively AI written. And so there's always going to be some human component that needs to come in and make it feel human. Like it has to feel human because people get the ick already. They get the ick, which is kind of crazy. Like, yeah, LinkedIn apparently is a
Every
good
time
place.
I see the phrase powerful insights on anything, I'm like, oh,
But yeah, exactly. Yes.
disgusting.
Yeah. It's like I hate LinkedIn because I like 95% of the stuff on there I'm just like, this is not genuine. And so unless there is right, you can tell AI, write it more human, write it more human, write it more human. Like do it 50 times, it's still not going to feel human for whatever reason.
And look, it comes down to the sophistication of the market. I think a lot of people are constantly thinking SaaS is the only place to sell their products and these highly tech kind of optimized industries. If you send these like AI style messages to certain local businesses, certain manufacturers, like you're still probably going to find success. And actually, maybe it'll make them go, wow, this is so personalized. But you're seeing this like race to the bottom effect happen with personalization. And the same thing is going to happen with intent, which is why we don't focus on intent signals. If everyone, the moment you post a job post, sends you the same thing about, your hiring, chances are you're going to become the noise, right? You're no longer the signal, you're the noise, which is why I hate calling them intent signals. I think they feed into broader, more broadly, situations, right? So you almost don't want to mention the hiring at all in the email. You'll actually stand out a lot more to be like, yeah, we've been helping team scaling ops do X, right?
Mm.
Don't even mention that you saw the job post, right?
Yeah.
We've been helping teams scaling ops do X. Figured you might be in a similar situation, right?
Yeah, I
That
love that.
becomes way more meaningful than I saw you're hiring someone in Georgia, which means that you're looking at a remote hire for your operations team. And it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, creep,
Yeah.
like get a hobby.
Yeah, 100%. That like the stimulus fatigue cycle, right? Like I always say when I'm trying to explain this to clients, like you send out a cold email, it doesn't get a response. If you sent it via like carrier pigeon and it came like flying in the window at me and landed on my like I'm gonna read it, and not only that, I'm gonna reply because the stimulus of the thing of how it got transported to me was interesting enough that the message doesn't actually need to carry that much weight, right? So and that stimulus fatigue goes in cycles, right? Like yeah, maybe direct mail is going to be the next thing because they were like, no one's sending direct mail at the moment is novel and unique, and the stimulus of getting a direct message, like a direct physical thing, is now interesting and it makes sense again, right? And so I love what you're saying about like using intent signals, but not letting them know that because like everyone's intent signals is like saw you commented on this person's post, so I figured you must be
Oh,
interested in this.
yeah.
I'm gonna yeah
That's the restraining order. That's the whole thing. That's the restraining orders right there.
yeah
Like you literally make people want to block you.
yeah
It's like,
yeah
okay, weirdo.
yeah, and like
Mhm.
that was interesting a year ago or 18 months ago, whenever it first came. But now the stimulus has fatigued. And so what's going to happen is it stops working. So people would stop using it. And maybe in like 3 or 4 years, no one's used it in a while. They'll start using it again and be like, oh, this is working again because these people
Yep.
haven't been, attacked by this stimulus in a while.
And there was a moment when like that same thing happened with personalized videos, even. Like I've been around long enough to know that like when, if you used a personalized video in 2020, you're knocking people's socks off. And then in 2023, there was a dip. And I imagine now it's back on the up, right? It's like, wow, this is again so cool. Um, at least when you're not trying to like over AI generate it, I would say for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Something
don't.
like what you're doing.
No, the hey and then insert first name AI generated voice thing just has never gotten past the uncanny valley of it making sense. And so we just script it in a way where it's like, hey, Hope you're well. Sorry, I know it's a bit odd to get like a video like this over email, but da da da. And we're just like, make it casual. Do not say like, "Hi, my name is Hawani, and I am the partner at blah 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 blah," like because that just doesn't
You're hinting at a
start to
great
build a
tactic
connection.
here. You're hinting at a great tactic, and it's actually the basis of that restraining order campaign, and it's calling out weirdness. So, um, if you're in an industry that you know has a very saturated offer, for instance, e-commerce, you can actually become cool by calling out the things people hate. So, for instance, e-com, UGC, would you like 3 free ads on the house? Hey, dude, I'm not going to be a weirdo and pretend I know your industry better than you do and offer you 3 free ads on the house. Right? That's all of a sudden a very attractive opening statement because you're showing that you just understand their current situation. That's precisely what you're doing with the personalized video. You're actually making an argument against what the rest of the market is doing. And that makes you seem, again, like an expert. You really need to come off as an expert, helpful expert. That's another tactic that you can employ for
Yeah.
saturated industries.
You could almost say the anti-stimulus fatigue. You know what's they're fatigued with, and you attack that with your outreach to be like, I'm
Relate to it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm levels above. I'm levels above. All right, let's let this wrap this up here, Mitchell. But I really do appreciate you taking the time, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
Thanks for having me.